After spending hours repairing the backyard fence, I came inside covered in dirt. My daughter walked by, wrinkled her nose, and shouted, "Mom, the homeless guy's back in the kitchen again. Smells like he's been rolling in trash." Her friend collapsed in laughter, gasping for air. My wife yelled from the bedroom, "Well, at least he's finally earning his keep this week." They all laughed. I just smiled and said nothing. This morning my phone was full of missed calls. They were begging me to pick up. Hey everyone. Before we dive in, I have a quick favor to ask. If you enjoy content like this, please hit the subscribe button. It's free, supports the channel, and ensures you never miss out on amazing videos. Alright, let's get started. So I'm sitting here in this budget motel room that smells like bleach and someone else's problems, scrolling through 47 missed calls on my phone. That's right, 47, not even counting the texts that keep lighting up my screen every few minutes. And you know what? I'm not answering a single one. This isn't some random breakdown or midlife crisis thing. Nope. This was the straw that finally broke this camel's back. After years of being treated like the household appliance nobody notices until it stops working. Let me back up to yesterday. It was Saturday, and I'd been out in the backyard since 7 a.m. fixing our fence. Not because I particularly wanted to spend my weekend wrestling with rotted posts and rusty nails in 85-degree heat, but because that storm last week knocked down a 20-feet section, and quotes from contractors were running over $1,000. Money we don't have because my wife Barbara handles the finances, and somehow there's never enough for home repairs, but plenty for her monthly salon visits and Brooklyn's dance competitions. So there I was, 6 hours deep into digging out concrete footings, setting new posts, and rebuilding the whole damn thing by myself. My back was killing me. I had splinters in places I didn't know could get splinters. I was covered head to toe in dirt, sweat, and who knows what else from the ground, but I finished it, and it looked good. I came inside through the kitchen door, absolutely exhausted, but kind of proud of saving us a bunch of money and fixing something with my own hands. All I wanted was a cold drink and maybe a thanks from someone in this house. But life doesn't work that way. Not in my house. My 16-year-old daughter, Brooklyn, was in the kitchen with her friend Magnolia. They were doing that TikTok dance thing they're always practicing. The second I walked in, Brooklyn actually wrinkled her nose like she smelled something dead. Then she looks at her friend, not even at me, and goes loud enough for the neighbors to hear, "Mom, the homeless guy is back in the kitchen again. Smells like he's been rolling in trash." Magnolia practically collapsed against the counter, laughing, like full-on gasping for air, tears in eyes laughing at me in my own house. And then, from the bedroom, my wife Barbara yells back, "Well, at least he's finally earning his keep this week." More laughter, like I wasn't even there, like I was some joke they'd been sharing for years. I just stood there, covered in dirt from fixing our house. While they laughed, I smiled, said nothing, grabbed a water bottle from the fridge, and walked past them to the shower. And in that moment, something inside me just quietly snapped. This wasn't a new thing. It was just the latest in a long pattern. Last month, I spent 3 weekends redoing our bathroom plumbing. Barbara complained the whole time about the inconvenience. When I finished, saving us at least $2,000 in plumber costs, she just said, "Finally," and pointed out a tiny spot of caulk I missed. Brooklyn hasn't thanked me for anything since he's maybe 10 years old. I pay the mortgage. I pay the utilities. I pay the car insurance. Barbara makes more than me at her marketing job, but somehow that money is her money, while my paycheck is our money. I do all the maintenance, all the repairs, all the yard work. I cook 4 nights a week. I clean the gutters and change the air filters and fix the leaky faucets. And what do I get? I get called a homeless man in my own kitchen by my own daughter while my wife laughs. So I took that shower, the longest shower of my life, just standing there while the water ran over me, thinking about the last 15 years, thinking about how I became the family joke, how I became invisible, except when something needed fixing. I went to bed early. Barbara didn't even notice. She was busy on her phone planning some weekend getaway with her friends. I laid there in the dark for hours, just thinking, not even angry anymore, just done. At 5 a.m., I got up. Barbara was still asleep. I packed a bag with essentials, just clothes, toiletries, my laptop, important documents. I withdrew $500 from the ATM, my money, from my personal account that Barbara doesn't have access to because she never bothered to ask about it. I left my wedding ring on the kitchen counter, right next to a note that just said, "Fix your own fence next time." Then I drove to this motel, paid cash for a week up front, turned off location sharing on my phone, and waited. The first calls started around 8 a.m. I watched them come in, but didn't answer. First from Barbara, then from Brooklyn. The first voicemails were annoyed. Barbara saying things like, "Where are you? We need milk and bread." And, "Did you seriously leave over a stupid joke? Grow up." Brooklyn's first text just said, "Dad, Mom's freaking out, whatever." Like she couldn't even be bothered to use capital letters or proper punctuation. Around noon, the tone started changing. More calls, more texts. This isn't funny anymore. Where are you? Dad, come on. I'm sorry about the homeless thing. It was just a joke. By evening, Barbara had called 23 times. Her last voicemail actually had a shake in her voice. Trent, please call me back. I'm getting worried. This isn't like you. Just let me know you're okay. But here's the thing. It is like me. The real me. The me that's been buried under years of being taken for granted. The me that finally decided I wouldn't be the family doormat anymore. I'm not going back. Not tomorrow, not the next day. Maybe not ever, unless things drastically change. I called my buddy Gunnar an hour ago. He's the only one who knows where I am. He thinks I should have done this years ago. Says he's been watching Barbara and Brooklyn treat me like garbage at cookouts and get-togethers for as long as he can remember. The plan now? I'm not sure there is one beyond making them understand what life is like without their personal handyman/emotional punching bag. The mortgage payment is due in a week. The lawn needs mowing. The dishwasher's been making that weird noise. That means the pump is going out. Brooklyn has a dance competition that needs entry fees paid. Let's see how they handle it all without me there to fix everything. My phone just lit up again. That's call number 48. Barbara again. I'm turning it off for the night. I'll update tomorrow after I talk to a lawyer about my options. Not looking to burn my life down completely. Just make them realize I'm a person, a husband, a father. Not some homeless guy they can laugh at after I spend all day fixing their problems. Anyone else ever just disappear to teach their family a lesson? Or am I truly losing it here? Update 1. It's been 2 weeks since I walked out of my house after being compared to a homeless person by my own daughter while my wife laughed along. 2 freaking weeks. And let me tell you guys, it's been the most eye-opening 14 days of my entire life. So, first off, I'm still at the motel, but not the same one. I switched after 3 days just to be safe. Barbara drove by the first place twice looking for my car. How do I know? The front desk guy actually called my room to warn me. Apparently, she came in crying and showing my picture around saying I was missing, and she was worried sick. Yeah, right. The calls haven't stopped. 73 missed calls as of this morning. 73. The voicemails evolved from annoyed to worried to desperate to straight up begging. I finally texted Barbara on day 4 just to say I was alive and needed space. That's it. Just so she wouldn't file a missing persons report or something equally dramatic. Her response? 6-paragraph text about how I was being childish and selfish, and how Brooklyn was devastated that I'd leave over one little joke. Not one word about maybe, just maybe. They'd been treating me like garbage for years. Not one single apology for laughing at me in my own kitchen after I'd spent the entire day working on our house. So anyways, the most important thing I did that first day was call Gunnar. He's been my boy since high school, the only real friend I've managed to keep through marriage and parenthood. Barbara never liked him, said he was immature because he's still single at 42. Truth is, he just never settled for someone who treats him like crap. Gunnar didn't just offer moral support. He offered me his spare room. I turned it down because I need neutral space right now. But he did hook me up with his cousin, who needed someone to help with a home renovation project. Cash gig under the table. Nothing fancy, just hanging drywall and installing cabinets. The exact kind of useless skills Barbara always minimized whenever I fixed stuff around our house. That first weekend alone felt weird, like I'd stepped out of my own skin. I kept expecting to get texts asking when I'd be home to fix the garbage disposal or mow the lawn, but I just didn't respond to anything. Instead, I slept in, ordered takeout, watched an entire season of that zombie show everyone's been talking about, did absolutely nothing productive for 2 solid days. By Monday, things got interesting. That's when the mortgage payment was due. See, even though Barbara makes more than me, I've always handled the mortgage from my account. Always, for 15 years. But this time, I didn't transfer the money. Instead, I went to the bank and opened a new account at a completely different bank, transferred half our savings, legally mine, by the way, and set up my direct deposit to go there instead. Then I called the credit card companies and removed myself as an authorized user on Barbara's cards. Not illegal, not even really revenge yet, just financial disentanglement. Day 5 is when it started to hit them. I could tell from the texts. The mortgage company had called Barbara, the lawn was getting overgrown, the dishwasher had finally died completely, Brooklyn needed money for her dance competition fees. Barbara's exact words in one voicemail: I don't understand why you're punishing Brooklyn for a stupid joke. She needs $250 for her competition by Friday, and I can't cover it with all these other expenses suddenly coming up. Yeah, suddenly, like the mortgage hasn't been due on the 1st for 15 years. On day 6, I finally looked at myself in the mirror. Like, really looked. And I didn't like what I saw. Not just the tired eyes or the stubble, but the whole defeated slump of my shoulders. The guy who'd been a doormat for so long, he'd forgotten what it felt like to stand tall. So I went to a real barber shop. Got an actual decent haircut instead of the home buzz cuts I've been giving myself to save money. Bought 2 new shirts that actually fit instead of the worn-out stuff I've had since forever. Small stuff, but it felt significant. By the end of the first week, I had helped Gunner's cousin enough that he recommended me to his neighbor for another project. Word of mouth is amazing when you're good with your hands. I've made almost $1,000 in cash already. And then something unexpected happened. I was grabbing coffee at this place downtown, wearing my new clothes, fresh haircut, feeling halfway decent for the first time in forever, when I heard a familiar voice. Brooklyn was at a table with Magnolia and some other girls from her dance team. She didn't see me at first, but Magnolia did. Her eyes went wide and she whispered something to Brooklyn. The look on my daughter's face when she turned around, guys, I can't even describe it. Shock, confusion, maybe a little bit of respect. I just nodded at her, paid for my coffee, and walked out. Didn't say a word, but I heard the whispers start immediately. I know how teen girls operate. By the end of the day, everyone in Brooklyn's circle knew her missing dad wasn't missing at all. He just didn't want to be home. That's when the texts from Brooklyn started coming in directly. Not angry anymore, not demanding, just confused. Asking where I was staying, if I was coming back, if I was getting a divorce. I haven't answered that one yet. Honestly, I don't know. What I do know is that Barbara's world is falling apart without her personal handyman/ATM. Gunner has connections with some of our mutual friends, and apparently Barbara's been calling around desperately trying to figure out where I am. She even tried to get into our online banking, but discovered I'd changed all the passwords. Last Friday, day 10, was when the real begging started. Barbara left a 3-minute voicemail just crying and apologizing, saying she didn't realize how much I did around the house. How Brooklyn misses me. How she had to pay a plumber $400 to fix something in the bathroom that's been leaking for 3 days. How she's been late to work twice because she had to drop Brooklyn off at dance practice. All the little invisible things I used to do, suddenly very, very visible in my absence. I finally called Gunner over to the motel last night to talk things through. We split a 6-pack while I showed him the increasingly desperate texts from both Barbara and Brooklyn. He thinks I should make them sweat a bit longer. Says the lesson won't stick if I go back too soon. The thing is, I'm not sure I want to go back, at least not to how things were. Last night, Brooklyn sent me a photo that nearly broke me. It was an old picture from when she was maybe 6 or 7. We were building her backyard playhouse together. Both of us covered in paint, huge smiles on our faces. Her message just said, "Remember when we used to do stuff together? I miss this, Dad." I stared at that picture for an hour, wondering when exactly that smiling little girl turned into someone who'd mock her father to impress her friends, wondering if it was too late to get that relationship back. This morning, day 14, I made a decision. I texted Barbara that I'm willing to meet and talk. Not at our house, somewhere neutral, and not alone either. I want Brooklyn there too. They need to hear some hard truths together with no place to hide or deflect. Barbara responded within seconds. All caps. "Yes, anything you want. Just tell me when and where." So we're meeting tomorrow at that coffee shop near the library, the one with the private room in back. You can reserve. I'm nervous, Angel. Part of me wants to just forgive everything and go home. The other part remembers 15 years of being treated like I'm worth less than the dirt under their shoes. I've made a list of non-negotiables if I'm coming back. Financial transparency, respect, real respect, not just when they need something fixed. Family counseling, and Brooklyn needs to understand that actions and words have consequences. Will they agree? Will it even matter if they do? Can people really change, or will things just go back to how they were after a few weeks of walking on eggshells around me? I honestly don't know, but for the first time in years, I feel like I have the power to decide what happens next in my own life. And that feeling alone might be worth these 2 weeks of exile. I'll update after the meeting tomorrow. Wish me luck, Reddit. I'm going to need it. Finally, update. So I got to the coffee shop 20 minutes early yesterday, wanted to scope out the place, make sure I had the private room set up the way I needed it. The barista kept glancing at me weirdly, probably because I was pacing around, checking my watch every 30 seconds like some kind of spy movie character about to make a drop. But whatever. I ordered a black coffee and sat there watching the door, feeling my heart pound in my chest. It's one thing to ignore texts and calls for 2 weeks. It's a whole other thing to sit face to face with the people who treated you like garbage and tell them exactly why you walked out. Barbara showed up 5 minutes early, alone. My first thought was pure anger. Like, seriously? I specifically said I wanted Brooklyn there too. Was this some kind of power move? Was she trying to handle me before bringing our daughter into it? But then I saw Barbara's face as she scanned the coffee shop looking for me. Guys, she looked rough. Hair pulled back in a messy ponytail instead of her usual perfect styling. Dark circles under her eyes, clothes that didn't quite match. This from a woman who wouldn't check the mail without full makeup and an Instagram-worthy outfit. I didn't stand up, just watched her. She finally spotted me and froze for a second, then did this weird half-wave thing and came over. As she got closer, I noticed she was carrying a folder, like an actual paper folder. Who does that anymore? Barbara sat down across from me and immediately started crying. Not subtle tears either. Full-on ugly crying in public. The barista looked over, clearly uncomfortable. I just sat there sipping my coffee. Let her get it out. When she finally calmed down enough to talk, the first thing she asked was where Brooklyn was. I reminded her that I had asked for both of them to be here. Barbara's face did this thing where it kind of crumpled. She explained that Brooklyn was waiting in the car. Apparently, our daughter was too embarrassed to come in. Too afraid of what I might say. So, I told Barbara to text her and say, either she comes in now or I walk out again. Harsh maybe, but necessary. 5 minutes later, Brooklyn slouched through the door. Hoodie pulled up, eyes on the floor. She slid into the chair next to Barbara without looking at me. The three of us just sat there in awkward silence for what felt like forever. Finally, I asked them a simple question. I asked when exactly I had become the family joke. When had they decided it was okay to mock me in my own house after I spent all day working on something for them? Barbara started with the excuses immediately. It was just a joke. They didn't mean anything by it. They were just having fun. Brooklyn was just being a teenager. I couldn't believe she was still trying to minimize it. So, I pulled out my phone, scrolled through a few things. Then I placed it on the table and played an audio clip. It was from Christmas last year when Barbara was talking to her sister in the kitchen. Didn't know I was within earshot. She was laughing about how I'd spent 3 days installing new kitchen cabinets, and how pathetic it was that I was so proud of saving money instead of just hiring someone like a normal person. Brooklyn's eyes went wide. Barbara's face went pale. Then I played another clip, this one from Brooklyn's room 2 months ago. Her door was partly open when I walked by. She was on a video call with Magnolia, laughing about how her dad was such a loser for fixing the washing machine himself instead of buying a new one. Yeah, I'd been keeping receipts for months. Every little dig, every backhanded compliment, every time they thought I couldn't hear them laughing at me. Brooklyn started crying then. Not manipulative tears either. Real, shocked tears. Like she was seeing herself clearly for the first time and didn't like what she saw. Barbara tried to regain control of the situation. She opened her folder and pulled out bank statements. Started talking about how she couldn't make the mortgage payment without my contribution, how the lawn service wanted $300, how the plumber charged them $400 to fix the bathroom sink, how Brooklyn might have to drop out of dance because they couldn't afford the fees. I just sat there, let her talk herself out. When she finally stopped, I told them both something I should have said years ago. I told them I wasn't their personal ATM or their handyman. I was supposed to be a husband and a father, a person they respected, someone they were glad to have in their lives, not someone they tolerated because he paid bills and fixed things. Brooklyn finally looked up then, really looked at me. She asked, in this small voice I haven't heard since she was little, if I was coming home. That's when I laid out my conditions. 1. Financial transparency. Joint account for household expenses with both of us contributing proportionally to our incomes. Barbara makes more, she pays more. Simple as that. 2. Brooklyn gets a part-time job. 16 is old enough to learn the value of money and work. Dance is fine, but she needs to contribute to her own competition fees. 3. Family counseling. Non-negotiable, at least 6 sessions. 4. Brooklyn does 20 hours of community service. Not court-ordered, just my requirement. I suggested the Habitat building project downtown. Let her see what it's actually like to work with your hands and build something. 5. Barbara needs to stop prioritizing her image over our family. No more $300 salon visits while complaining about the cost of fixing the dishwasher. Barbara started to argue immediately about points 2 and 5. Said Brooklyn was too busy with school and dance for a job. Said I was being controlling about how she spent her money. I just stood up, started putting on my jacket, told them both that these weren't suggestions. They were requirements. Take it or leave it. Brooklyn surprised me then. She told Barbara to stop. Actually told her mom to stop. Said she could work weekends at the smoothie place at the mall. Said she'd heard they were hiring. Said she missed me and was sorry. Those 2 words, I'm sorry. First genuine apology I'd heard from either of them in years. Barbara looked back and forth between us. I could practically see the wheels turning in her head. Finally she nodded. Said she'd agree to everything. Asked when I was coming home. I told them not yet. I'd paid for the motel through the end of the month. I needed to see actions, not just promises. I'd come by the house this weekend to cut the grass and fix the dishwasher, but I wouldn't be staying. Not until we'd had at least 2 counseling sessions, and I saw real change happening. Brooklyn asked if she could help me with the dishwasher. Said she wanted to learn how to fix things. That actually made me smile. First real smile of the whole meeting. As we were leaving, Barbara handed me the folder. Said it was something she'd been working on all week. I opened it after they left. It was a handwritten list of every repair and household task I'd done over the past year with the estimated cost of hiring someone to do each job. The total at the bottom was over $15,000. She'd written at the bottom, "This is just the money. It doesn't include the time, knowledge, or care you put into our home. I didn't see it before. I'm seeing it now." It wasn't a perfect apology, but it was a start. That was yesterday. Today I went to look at an apartment, just a small 1-bedroom near downtown. The lease is month to month. I'm not giving up on my family, but I'm not rushing back either. I've realized something important in these past 2 weeks. I deserve respect. I deserve appreciation. And I'm not going back to a situation where I don't get those things. Brooklyn texted me this morning. She'd applied at 3 places at the mall. Has an interview at the smoothie place tomorrow. Asked if I could help her prepare. I said yes. Barbara texted too. She'd made an appointment with a family counselor for next Tuesday. Asked if that worked with my schedule. I said yes to that too. It's been 3 weeks since I walked out of my house after being compared to a homeless man by my own daughter while my wife laughed. 3 weeks of the hardest, most necessary stand I've ever taken in my life. Will it work? Will things really change? I don't know. But for the first time in years, I feel like a whole person again. Not just someone who fixes things and pays bills. An actual person with feelings and boundaries who deserves basic respect. So that's where things stand now. I'm cautiously optimistic, but prepared for setbacks. Real change doesn't happen overnight, but at least now they see me. The invisible man has become visible again. I might post another update in a few months if anything significant changes. But for now, I want to thank everyone on Reddit who supported me through this. Your comments and messages helped me stay strong when I was tempted to just give in and go back to the way things were. To anyone out there being taken for granted by the people who are supposed to love you most, it's never too late to stand up for yourself. Never too late to demand the respect you deserve. Trust me on this one. Like today's story? A super thanks helps me keep bringing you the best daily content. Your support means I can keep doing what I love. Thanks for being awesome.